Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of Tech Bakaya. This is your host, Rahul Bakaya, and today I'm delighted to invite Josh McCarthy from Seismic, who is a lead in BDR, which is Business Development Representative. In tech world, we also call them SDR. So SDR, BDRs, Business Development Executives, who are, I would say, the building blocks of your sales pipeline. So Josh, welcome, man. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me. It's great I love the idea of getting a BDR, SDR, million names that there are, getting their voice to the table, because sometimes they're the forgotten cog in the wheel that is tech sales. But yeah, really excited to be here. As you said, Josh McCarthy from Seismic. Been with Seismic for 18 months now. Started as a BDR. I'm now leading the BDR team here in Australia and in APAC around, how we're going out to market to sell Seismic. And what Seismic, we're the leaders in the sales enablement field, which is all around aligning your sales, marketing, enablement, customer-facing teams with the right tools, content, context, training materials, all of that good stuff delivered right wherever they're working. So I'm speaking with sellers, marketers, enablement, client-facing leaders all day, every day. So a good wide variety of people that I get to speak to. But one of the great things is that a lot of them are sellers, and that, that seller's background, a lot of them potentially started in the BDR land. So I've come from a startup previously to that, which was talking to health and safety experts all the time who don't have that background and might not have been as friendly or open to taking a cold call. Right. Some sellers, you can just tell that they're like, I'll give you the 30 seconds to pitch, because one, they've been there before. Two, they're also probably looking to hire BDRs at the moment. And three, we've got a great tool that can help them. So that's me. That's what I do, and I feel like I've been BDRing for a little over 2 years at a startup, and then a 2,000 person company. So I feel like I've got a wide array of experience and stories and knowledge from that. So yeah, that's really keen to bring that BDR lens here today.
Absolutely, man. That's what you're here for. That I love your enthusiasm. I love your experience. So you work for Seismic, the way you explained it, and I'm going to put my marketing hat to it. So Seismic is someone who makes sales and marketing friends.
That's the goal. that's the goal, which is it's great fun, because from experience and from the conversations you have, it's a lot of the time that we're sitting on two different fences, throwing things at one another, making assumptions, making wild claims that the other, that the sellers they're not doing anything with the leads that we bring them in, that they're lazy or this, that, the other. Yeah. And sellers are like, well, the leads you're bringing in, they're just not good enough. They're not up to scratch. So yeah, we're really around bringing those two teams together, which is interesting, because sometimes you start a conversation in the marketing team and it's like, okay, what we need to do is bring you both under the one roof, and we can have these conversations separately and learn about the pains and where the frustrations might come from, and then bring that together and be like, okay, how can we, help solve some of these problems and help bring you guys together? Because at the end of the day, like the more we break down those silos and are working cohesively, the more money your teams are going to be making, your reps are going to be making more money, doing more of what they're good at, which is selling, and your marketers are going to be creating more content that's helping them sell. So it's a win-win on both sides of the camp.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Have you ever seen sales and marketing fight in front of you?
All day. All day.
Do you get popcorns? All right, you can start. I'm watching.
That's the job. And a lot of the times you're sort of going into it going, this might get a little heated, but then a lot of the time when you bring them together, it's okay, let's not be as nasty as we might have been individually.
Okay, let's talk about this. All right, you don't have to tell me you don't have to tell me the specifics. I would like to know an incident where it was very heated.
Yes.
What happened? And how did you solve that?
So, well, the first piece is that the first response I have every time when a seller or a sales team is like, our marketing, the content they're creating, it's like it's
BS.
it's just to look good for their bosses or whatever that looks like. And the first thing is that's what we're hearing all day, every day. So it's not that these people are on their own. And I'm sure as a marketer, you've got your thoughts on sellers, and you've worked with sellers in the past that, you know, aren't using your content or aren't, you know, nurturing the leads that you bring in or whatever that might look like. But yeah, the first step is always around, this isn't something that you're facing alone, and it's either something that we're working on with someone at the moment that's really similar, or it's a problem that we've solved directly. I think from my point of view, and I've sort of got more the seller's hat on because I work directly with account executives and the BDRs on that sales side. So I always feel more fire coming in from marketers.
Right.
But I think that's because I can touch on the nerves, because as a lazy seller, which is usually the language that comes from the marketing side, I pretty much just put I'll be your seller from your organizational hat on, and dive down into, you know, what they might be doing when when you're having a lazy day or whatever, and just highlight that to them. And that's usually when.
And is it so you reckon, in your experience, content has been a challenge? I want to say content, but disagreement of the direction of the content has been a challenge between the sales team.
Yeah, so a bit of both. So content as a whole, the challenges we typically deal with is the content management, and, you know, where does that content live? Is it in a bunch of different folders? Is there, you know, some really good content that I might have saved on my desktop from 2-3 years ago, because I know that wins me deals, and I know when I show this in my PowerPoint that it's a showstopper, and it's sort of gonna help me move along to those next steps.
Right.
So you got sellers who save the content offline, essentially, but then marketing don't have any idea that, you know, that's the content that they love and that is helping them win. So marketing is just producing more and more and more, but you've got sellers who go.
So marketing is producing more and more of what?
More of the content that they think is helping them win deals, move deals forward. So
So that's very interesting. So marketing thinks that they are producing content to win more and more deals.
Marketing are creating great content for their people, and they know they're creating great content for their people.
They think they know that.
They don't know what content is that great content, and that's where Seismic comes in and helps by giving you the analytics and the insights into who's using it, where they're using it, and where it's actually moving deals forward. So that's the piece where it's like, marketing, we're not saying you're not creating great content. We're just helping you prove it. We're helping you prove it. So when you need to go upstairs to your big bosses and go, hey, this campaign was great. Our sellers are loving it. It's moving the needle. That's where we can go, we'll show you exactly where that is. And then we can save you time by not making you do.
Give me an example, because I really like this idea of people thinking about their content is working or not. Give me an example where you have seen a content produced by marketing which you think won't work, and why do you think that won't work?
Yeah, so at my previous, at the startup that I started at, so the marketing person that we had there wasn't a full-time employee, so it was a 35, 40 person company. You had 7 sellers, which was BDRs, sales execs, and a sales leader that was sitting upstairs. You had the engineers downstairs building the product, and then you had a marketing person come in once or twice a week who would sit downstairs. So the content that was coming out of that was purely, you know, had no input or anything from what the sellers are seeing every day or whatnot. It was more of the technical, these are the problems we solve at the end, but they're not the challenges that we're actually getting people on the hook with.
It was product-led. Very product-led.
There was no voice of, you know, the customer of, you know, what us BDRs are talking to people every day. Like, and I think a lot of the time, great content and great ideas and great insight is coming from your BDR team that are speaking to people day in and day out. You know, they're the ones that are going, hey, upstairs is saying that this is a great piece of content, and I'm showing it to someone, and they're falling asleep in a Zoom. They're dozing off. It's not that ding that we thought it might be. So yeah,
I agree. I think, and I was speaking to my previous guest Abdul on this regards as well. And Clary is someone who produces amazing content. Right? They got this right. And I read their content sometimes. It's amazing. It's good. I think as a marketer, what you need to be sure is you need to produce 2 types of content, right? So one is in layman's language, one is a direct content and one is more awareness and educational content, right? So direct content is that will help you to progress your deals or to sell better, right? So and that content where we say that you should write like you talk, that's the content, that's the direct content, right? That's how Josh will talk, and that's how Josh will write. So that's a direct content, and marketing should definitely work on that. On the other hand, there is necessity of content that needs to educate the market. So say, for example, if it's sales enablement, right? So direct content for sales enablement would definitely be here, the 5 challenges of what you are missing if you don't have a sales enablement system in place, such as Seismic. Whilst the other one should be around where is industry going with sales enablement, right? What is how is the influx of AI affecting sales enablement? That kind of content will help your audience to grow every day. And that kind of content, once the audience familiarizes themselves with that content, they go like, I think Seismic knows what they're doing. I think they're the industry leaders. I think they're the, dare I say, thought leaders in what they do. I think what I've seen in my experience, marketers get the first part right. Because as you said, to please the bosses, I think they get the first part right. Product-led or brand-led content, I think they get the second part totally wrong. It's a demand gen-led content.
You could hear in my answer, though, the bias that I have, obviously, towards the side I'm dealing with and that I'm presenting. And I'm listening to you and I'm like, absolutely. Because from my side, we're also dealing with inbound. Inbound doesn't happen without that thought leadership and that side of the fence. So, yeah, that's definitely important. But, yeah, as a selfish seller, and that's sometimes what we hear from the sales side of things. It's like, we're interested in what's here, what's right in front of us, what's going to help us win now, not what's going to help us win in maybe 6 months.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting what you said over there, right? And let me explore on that one with you, right? So marketers, they are giving you, say, for example, leads. Let's take an example of this situation where they're giving you MQLs with a lead score of 20. And say, hey, Josh, can you and your team qualify them for the sales team, right? But then when you speak with a sales team, and I don't know how it's structured right now, usually they have SDRs allocated to each vertical A's, or you are more aligned to marketing where you're fed up with a lot of leads, and then you just warm them up and increase their lead scoring and qualify them for the sales team. Can you tell me your experience around it? So when this side where you're getting leads from marketing, and this side where sales are saying, hey, where do you get this lead from? This is BS, right? How do you deal with that? What's your experience with that?
So this was all brand new to me when I came to Seismic. Because like I said, at my previous company, the marketing was there, once or twice a week, and nothing was coming inbound. That just wasn't something that existed. So when I came over to Seismic, and they're like, hey, a couple times a week or a couple times a day, you're going to get someone that's showing interest or this, that, the other. So I was like, wow, that's fantastic. That makes my job easy. So we sort of break it down in a couple of ways. So we've got obviously like requesting a demo, and they're red hot, alarms are always going off. And that's when we typically align with the vertical or the seller or whatever section that falls in. And that, obviously gets the first bit of attention. And that's really sales-led activities around, let's get them on the phone. Let's do a bit of a discovery, but also, show them a bit more of, what they were interested in, why they might, consider having some more conversations. On the other side of the fence, we have MQLs that are coming in that are, based off, 1 or 2 touch points that might come from a LinkedIn post or, other avenues where that's much more of a nurture play, and it's not something that you can go in as guns blazing. So when I'm looking at that, and when I'm looking at it from, my team's perspective, if I have a RAD come in and I have an MQL come in from my team, I'm always going to have them prioritizing, their effort, personalization, directly to that RAD first of all.
Red first, the demo first, and then the MQ.
Because the way I look at it, and the BDR function, we're looking at it. What's the outcome that's going to help build pipeline? And the quickest way to pipeline is by the people who are expressing much deeper interest in wanting to learn about the product, or how we can solve the challenges that they've seen online that we help solve. Whereas the MQL, that's more of a, I've found that if you go in as guns blazing, as you love us, you want to learn about us, all of that's not typically the case. What they might love or what they might want to have learned about is one of the challenges you solve, but that might not be a challenge that they're looking to solve at the moment. It might just be them trying to keep up with what's happening in the market, and when that might be a time. So on that side of the fence, it's more around, let's not go in as guns blazing and driving, meetings and booked opportunities.
Let's have a softer approach.
Let's have a softer approach and kind of put our marketing hat on and be giving more. Can I share a case study that aligns with, the challenges you were looking at, or how can I help develop that journey to turn you into a rad in a month or 2 months time down the track? So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's how
it does. So
when I'm breaking it down between, a red hot lead that comes in, which automatically aligns me with the rep that it's going to go to, and then lighter touch MQLs, and how we can kind of put our marketing hat on to help nurture that and flip that at a later date, or just have them as someone that knows what we do in case that.
And I believe you would have a good alignment with your marketing team in, hey, listen, the SLA for a red hot lead, I'm happy for it to be 48 hours, wherein I can update Salesforce or whatever. But for the SLA for the lukewarm MQL, shouldn't be 48 hours, should be maybe 14 days or a month or two. So you have that alignment with marketing team, like time-bounded alignment.
For sure. And I'm really lucky locally. And this is something that really drew me to this role, is I wanted to join a global company with a big presence, and Seismic is that, where, we're leading the way when it comes in North America. We're sort of becoming that household name, really big presence in the UK. The APAC team is smaller and still growing, which means as a BDR, and when I was brand new, I had direct access to my VP, to my head of marketing, to a head of partnership, head of CS. So I got a great view early on of that. And now that I've sort of stepped into this team lead role, myself and Simon, I'll give him a shout out. Simon, he's our marketer here. He is a bundle of energy, and I love working with him because he totally gets it. He totally understands, where we are and where we can align to, make the most out of his marketing efforts, but also make the most out of, my team's time and those things. So yeah, a really strong alignment between Simon and myself makes my job a whole lot easier, because I hear some horror stories where it's that sales v marketing, and it's those conversations can be tense from the get-go, whereas I'm lucky in the situation that I'm in, that I've got direct access to him and we're talking all the time. So yeah.
Absolutely, man. And let's talk now about the other side as well, right? The sales and BDR side. So how does that go? How did that go? So do they give you targets like, Josh, from your team, we need these many hot leads per month?
Yeah, so we've got, like, the way it works for us, we've got meeting targets, so booked meetings with, the ICPs that we want to be speaking with at the companies that, we know we can help them be more successful. And then we've got what we call an EAO, which is an enterprise approved opportunity, which means, they've got pains and challenges we can solve. They're willing to learn more, and we've got a bit more information around that. So we've got targets from both of them. The most important thing, and the thing I would tell any BDR coming in to a new role, is one of the most important relationships you'll have is that BDR to AE relationship. They all of the time have direct line into the head of sales. They've also probably been in the position you are, and they've been promoted to that AE role, which for a lot of BDRs, that's where they want to end up. Yeah, for the most part. I think when they come in as well, typically, people are coming in and they see the big salaries of an AE and the big potential of, just uncapped ceilings of where that potential can go. One big deal can sort of change your life, or whatnot. So that direct access to that person, and I've found that the harder you work early on in both the relationship that you're building with them, but also the work that you're doing on their accounts and their territory will go a long way. So my advice, and this wasn't the question, but my advice in the first 3 months, put your absolute best foot forward with those, that one person or the two people, or have a big, the amount of AEs that you're reporting up into, because they'll go a long way in, helping shape who you become as a BDR and as a seller, because you're learning off them every day, but also where you can go in your career. They're very well connected in the industry, and the Aussie tech scene is only as big as it is. So, some of the relationships I have with my first AEs at my previous company is still on to this day, and we're talking, once or twice a month. And I know if a role was to come up elsewhere, that they see my name would be, at the top of the hat to go in. So they're also just a great person to lean onto when, you're having a bad day as a BDR. You've made 50 calls and you've spoken to 3 people, and all of them have not been in the mood to talk to you. So it's that bringing great stuff to them, but also being able to lean on them with the not so great stuff as well. So they want as many meetings with the best people as possible, but it's in their best interest to be.
Any particular A you want to give a shout?
So my 2 current ones at the moment, Walter Olson and Francis, they're both my guys at the moment. They're incredible with the time and energy that, especially Walter. Francis came on after I'd been in the role for sort of 10 to 12 months. So I felt like I really hit the ground running with Francis when he was here, so I could set him up with some good quality conversations early on. But Walter sort of started the same point in me as I did, and I was coming from the startup was very old school. We didn't have any of the tools that I now have at a sales enablement company, where we have.
We'll come to that as well. The tools,
beautiful. So I was coming in. Although I'd been on the phones for 10 months, and I was pretty confident. I'm pretty confident when I'm talking to people, and once I know, the pains that we solve and the challenges that we can help with, I'm pretty good at, having those conversations. But I was fresh to a lot of things on the tool side, but also, working in a bigger company. I wasn't used to leads coming in and managing your time with all of that. So yeah, Walter's unreal. And one other one, Spencer Frost, was the first AE in my previous role, and he taught me everything I knew at the beginning around BDRing. He was, the onboarding was 2 weeks in a room with him, and he was on a board, and if he came in halfway through, he looked like a mad scientist. There was words everywhere, but he spent a lot of time working with me early. So
right, so let's talk about SDR in specific. Someone joining SDR as a career, right? Someone like you were maybe 7 years ago, right? What are the 3 to 4 things you would recommend them from a tactical point of view? And what are 3 to 4 things you will recommend them from an EQ point of view? Because it's a rigorous job. It's not an easy job. SDR is not an easy job. So they need to be, I think, emotionally very strong, right? So what are the things that you would recommend?
Yeah, so I think the point that you just ended on is really important, and when I'm interviewing for people coming on board, it's like what motivates you? Why is this the role that you're coming into? If it's to move straight into another role, it's probably not going to be for you, because you've got to go through some tough times of getting your training wheels on, and then getting your training wheels off, and then being comfortable having a lot of conversations that aren't going to go your way, and dealing with rejection on a day-to-day. So I put that at the forefront of like, this isn't a job for everyone. But if it's a job that you feel like you've got some of the soft skills, or you're willing to learn them, and you're hungry, then it's a job that can sort of take you a lot of different places in a lot of big tech companies, especially. So from that emotional intelligence side, and you can see it as well when you walk into a room. And when I started at my other place, there was 3 of us that sort of started, and 2 of us were, you'd go into a meeting with 6 different people, and we'd sit quietly when it was time to be quiet, and you'd talk when it's time to talk. On the other end of the spectrum was someone who sort of couldn't really pick up on those cues, and I think he felt, and the team sort of felt pretty early on, that this probably wasn't going to be the right match for you. And it's got nothing to do with intelligence, because you can be the smartest person in the room, but if you can't have a conversation with someone and, let them lead if that's the time, or if it's your time to lead, and sort of being able to pick up on those cues are pretty tough. But in terms of, BDRing and what it takes, if you're hungry, you're driven, you've got a bit of competitiveness, and you're willing to sort of put in the work, then the results will follow, and it becomes a numbers game after that. So I'm not really sure if that answers the question as such, but if I was to be looking for my first BDR role at the moment, the things I would be doing is getting yourself on LinkedIn first and foremost. You don't have to be an expert in anything to be on LinkedIn. You've just got to start getting your profile.
Yeah, I can see that.
You got to get yourself out there, get your profile out there, and start Googling, who are the people in this space that are talking about it and that have been talking about it for a long time. And Kyle Coleman is the first person I would tell anyone to... Clary, yeah, VP of marketing. When I started following him 2 or 3 years ago, he was not in that role, but he has had 3 or 4 sort of promotions in that time span, and in the couple of years before that, the same sort of thing. And he started as a BDR. And he's my favorite person to follow on LinkedIn, because his whole mantra and the way he goes about things, he responds to every BDR that reaches out to him. He takes the 2-3 minutes, which I don't do that, which is probably not great from my end, but he responds to each and every one of them with either yes, no, or hey, this was the message you sent. A couple of tweaks here and there might be able to help. So nice. He's a great person if you're not following him, and he's a great person to follow. And from that BDR lens, he teaches you so much about what it takes to be successful before you're in the role, when it comes to, reaching out to the right people with the right personalization, with the right message, and how to put that forward. You can learn all of that before you're in a role. Once you're in the role, it's around, what do we do? Who do we do it best for? And what are the pains that they face that we fix with our product? That's the bits you can learn internally that you probably can't learn externally to the depths that you might need to. You can pick up on bits and pieces of it from the website and whatnot, but that's the pre-work that you're doing is going to go a long way once you're in the role. The second piece on that is, and it's what helped the person that I've just hired to join my team really stand out in the crowd, is act like a BDR before you get the role, and in interview processes and whatnot. So I was followed up with after conversations. I was reached out to before conversations.
Right.
And that individual was then reaching out to other people in the team, not just locally, globally as well. And, as we move through the interview stage, they would ask questions around, what have people done here to be successful, and where have they fallen short? And then also reaching out to other BDRs in the team of like, what made you successful in, first of all, coming through this process, but then once you've started. So it's a great way to stand out, is practice your BDRing skills before you're in there. So
showcase them during the interview process, right?
The phone. Be confident to send the message. Like, don't ever not hit send because you're worried about
what the outcome.
And like,
might
that's
be.
something we can teach you. And you'll grow as a BDR of that. And like, I was the same. I was hesitant to pick up the phones at first. I was hesitant to send messages or to connect with people on LinkedIn. But the more you do it, the more you sort of build up that skill of 0.001% of someone's day. Pop up. You see the name Josh McCarthy 3 times in 2 weeks. At one point you're gonna start talking to me. So just be confident in yourself and putting yourself out there.
What are your thoughts on BDRs having good product knowledge? Because sometimes what I've seen, BDR goes like, look, I just need to know the top level so that I can fix up a meeting and then move on.
Well, I think it goes 2 ways. I think you can be know too much about the product, and then you're talking product, when our job's not to be talking product. Our job is to be talking pains and to be talking you. And then, absolutely, those pains align with the product. Let's either set up some time and I can take you through that.
Right.
But
so sorry to cut you there. So know your product enough so you can talk about the pain points
early. And that's that. And like, the product will continue, like the knowledge will continue to come, but don't wait to be talking to people because you don't feel like you know enough of the product. Know the pains, know the challenges, know them in depth. Because you can talk to the outcomes that we can get from that. And the product doesn't matter as much. It's the outcomes and, you know, fixing the challenges and pains that matter.
You know, this is such a profound thing you said right now. I'll tell you why. And you would have noticed this in your startup as well, the startup that you work for. Most of the startup, they start with product-led growth, right? It's all about product. Right? The moment they start thinking about their audience, their customer, if they start being customer-centric, you know who they hire? BDRs. So having an alignment about being customer-centric and then hiring BDR is a perfect, deadly combination. If you are not being customer-centric, you should not hire BDRs. Because what the last thing you want a BDR to do is go and say 10 things good about your product. What you want your BDR, as I have learned from you, is saying, what are the 10 things I can help you with to solve your problem?
Yeah. So early on at Seismic, another one of our mid-market reps who had just been promoted from a BDR role into the mid-market role, some of her feedback, she watched one of my calls that I sort of set up for her, and her feedback was, stop talking about us. Stop talking about us. Talk about them. And that's not like grilling them and like, do you have budget? Do you have timeline? It's genuinely caring about the pains that they're dealing with on a day-to-day, and stop then going, oh, well, this is how we solve the pain, because that's your knee-jerk reaction of go, oh, bingo, I found the pain that we're talking about and that, you know, I'm told to look out for. Let me tell you how we solve it. That's not what we're here for. We can nurture and build a relationship before we get to that point, because product's product.
How many calls would you reckon you would have done in Seismic?
Wow.
Give me a range.
And when I talk calls, I'm talking
Conversation.
Yeah. Geez.
Give me a range.
Thousands.
Huh? This would be a second thing.
Yeah, thousands.
Can we do something fun?
Yeah.
Why don't you call me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's see, because I have never got a call from a Seismic sales rep. Seismic BDR. Yep. I've spoken to a Seismic sales rep. Yep. She was fantastic. Yep. But let's do this, man. So that the only reason of doing this, because I want to show the world how it's done. Yeah. Cool. From your perspective.
Yeah, for sure. And then the second piece that I want to get into potentially after this. So when I'm talking calls, there's these calls, which is the cold calls. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of the time, you know, once our BDRs are on board, we want to give them the confidence and help them with their career by taking, you know, those initial calls. So where you've actually got 30 minutes to sit down and delve in. So that's where it's really important not to be product. Yeah, absolutely.
But let's do a cold call, man. Let's do a cold call. You got a phone number, right? So I downloaded an ebook on how Seismic can change the world of challenges between sales and marketing. Yeah. Because I fight with sales team a lot, right? All right. Ting, ting, ting.
Ring, ring.
Ring, ring. Hello.
Hello, was that Rahul?
Yeah.
Hey, Rahul, this is Josh calling from Seismic. How are you?
Good. Oh, yes, Seismic. Yeah. How did you get my number?
Mate, I got your number. Funnily enough, I saw you taking a look at some of our content around, you know, sales and marketing and the challenges that we're seeing. Thought I'd give you a quick call just to see how that sat with you. Have you got 30 seconds to quickly go through it?
Oh, yeah, man. 30 seconds. Sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
appreciate it. I won't be much longer. So I saw you taking a look at the content on sales and marketing and those teams not, you know, getting on well. What we're hearing a lot of at the moment is that for marketing leaders like yourself, you're producing all of this fantastic content, but you're not really sure what's working, what's not working, if your sellers are actually using it. Is that something that sort of resonates with your day-to-day life?
Yeah, look, you know what? It does happen sometimes, because the content that I produce, I can obviously look at Google Analytics, I can look at my HubSpot charts, and I can see what's selling, or I can see who's reading what, how many downloads I've got. But that sometimes doesn't resonate with the sales team, because when I go to the sales team, they have a different story. Yeah. So I think you're on the right track. Yeah. Well, what's in regards to is that the ebook that I downloaded? Yeah.
Yeah. So the ebook's really around the thought leadership and where we're sort of situating and this is the stuff we're doing day in and day out. I'm talking with marketing leaders like yourself on those exact problems. And what we're hearing from the sales side of the camp is that, you're creating all of this content, but they don't have those ideas of what's working and what's going to help them make more money. What we do at Seismic is bring all of that together to give you the direct analytics on exactly what's happening from a day-to-day from your content. And then we also give the sellers, hey, this is what X, Y, and Z are using, and they're at the top of the leaderboard, and they're using it here and at this point in a sales cycle to help them win more deals.
Yeah, look, that all sounds nice, man. I think it's a great product. We just don't have budget right now. So I don't know where this is going to go, but yeah, you know what? It sounds great, but yeah, I don't think we have the propensity to buy.
Totally hear you, and I'm not here to get you to buy anything at all. I'm just here to sort of give you a bit more insight into what Seismic does and where we potentially help. I know you don't have budget, and I'm not looking to get money out of your pocket at the moment, but would love to sort of see if we could set some time up, maybe with someone from our team. Ellie, she looks after companies of your size, just to give you a bit of a high level overview of what we do. I know I asked for 30 seconds. I don't want to keep running over today, but if you're open to sort of a conversation around that, and then it gives you the wisdom to know what we do at Seismic, and if it helps in the future, it helps in the future. If not, a little bit more, and we can.
Yeah, well, yeah. Next Friday looks good. I think I can spare 40 minutes at 2 p.m. Does that sound
Sounds
okay?
good on our end. I'll send you over a link now.
All right, mate. Cheers.
Thanks, Rahul.
Yeah, that was good.
I'd love to have 50 conversations like that every day.
I was being kind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, that was pretty good. I think I think I have had worse calls and some very good calls as well. In general, I'm very, very kind on the calls, because I do understand as SDRs are just doing their job. It's a very difficult job. I think from a receiver's end, I like where, again, agreeing to your point, I like where they talk about me. They talk about my pain points. They don't even mention what their product does. And I wouldn't use the word dislike. I kind of turn my ears off when they start to push more towards getting a meeting. If I tell them, look, listen, this is not something I'm looking for. And then they try to use, Josh Braun.
Another great follow on LinkedIn.
He's given some great tactics, but I think folks are bastardizing his tactics, and I can just see it that they're doing it. They'll pick up my last sentence and mirror it, and then they will just start labeling it, and to a point where I've said, listen, if you like Josh Braun so much, right, don't try it on me. I listen to Chris Voss from where Josh has learned, so I would know what you're doing, right, and I can smell the commission breath that he says, right? But yeah, some good ones, some bad ones. And I remember one of my CROs, he used to be very open to these meetings. And I asked him why. And he's a CRO, right? So he has no time. But he will take meetings. Why do you do that? He's like, Rahul, it's always good to know what's out there in the market. You never know when you will have a requirement. It's always good to know what's out there in the market. And listening from a demo or from someone speaking, you will learn it quickly rather than going on their website and Googling it. I'm like, phew.
Sounds like a BDR's dream.
That's amazing, right? So, and that clicked me, right? And I said, BDRs are the crucial element of awareness and educational campaigns. If we give them a quota on educating the market as well, not just generating the meeting, not just generating the pipeline, I think, and it's democracy, I can think whatever I want. I think SDRs should not only be focused around building pipeline, but also educating the market. I think they should be the thought leaders of the product. They should be promoting, because they talk to customers a lot, right? So an AE will talk to their accounts only, and very few key people. They will go in meetings. Marketing will do communications at scale. It's the SDR or BDR who will do communication one-on-one at scale.
and with to get to the top, to get to that CRO, I'm probably not going to pick up the phone and call him first off. I'm going to talk to one of his sales leaders and find out what the pain is that he's doing, and then one of the frontline people and find out what they're dealing with day in and day out, and then take that information back up. So like you're saying, they're not only, having those, hundreds of conversations with the CRO level or the C level, but they're talking to who will be the end user of, the pains and, the problems and the conflicts that they've got with marketing or sales day in and day out. So I totally agree with you.
So Josh, I think if I keep chatting with you, this is going to go for 3 hours or more. So I have a feeling one day I'll call you again, right? I have few things to discuss with you, right? And these are sensitive things, sensitive in a way that people have divided opinions on these things, right? So I wanted to know the other side from you. I've heard that, and you mentioned this as well, it ends up being a numbers game. Number of calls, number of emails, number of messages, number of activities. And I've seen leaders saying that, well, if SDR is not producing that much result, just check out his or her activity, right? How many calls that person is making, how many in-mails they are sending, etc. To what extent do you agree with that, and to what extent do you think it's effective?
Yeah, so, and I feel like this has changed a lot since I came in and started BDRing and to where I am now, and that's, company changes and the way that the world's changing and all of that. I think if you're making one call and sending one email a week, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you're not going to be able to, have enough conversations. But I also don't think that if you aren't making 300 calls and 300 emails a week, that you're a bad BDR. That's not the way I look at it. You might be an absolute weapon when it comes to reaching out to people on LinkedIn. And at the end of the month, you might have 35 calls, but you've booked a whole bunch of meetings through, your network socially or your thought leadership that's leading to conversations. So from my point of view, the numbers don't matter from, I need this because I need this, because someone told me that I need this. That's not what I need. I need you to, especially early on, have a crack at all of those ways that we go out: calls, emails, LinkedIn, whatever.
Find your strength.
Find your strength, and then let's double down on it. Let's do more of that. It's like with marketing. Once you find the good content that you're sending out, let's build more of that stuff. Let's build more of the stuff that we're seeing that's winning. But you can definitely see it from the side of things when, okay, you're not hitting your meeting number and you're not hitting your your opportunity number. That's when the pressure then goes, okay, what are they doing there? But I think you've got to, you got to look at yourself as well as a leader of like, okay, that person might be sending out 300 emails and making 300 calls, but what's the quality like? Are they like, we're thought leaders down here. We're sending out the message.
Bad quality multiplied by 100 is still bad
and
quality.
Especially in Australia, where the tech scene is only so big, and the amount of people we can reach out to. If I have Seismic making thousands of bad calls, and just it's not good. So I'd prefer to look at, how can I help you and make sure that we've got your message right, and then get it to a level. It can't just be that we're not doing any work and they're not getting any results. But it's not, I'm not here to, 150 calls regardless of what's going on with your meetings or anything like that. It's, let's work with the individual. And I think it's an individual level. Those numbers are designed for leading larger teams. So yeah, I know it's out there. I feel the pressures around it and around driving it with my team, especially when we're not successful. That's when you feel it the most. But I also don't think applying that pressure to people helps in the long run if that's not how they get the best out of themselves.
I think the pressure does come from folks who don't have a background in either sales or marketing or BDR or revenue. I think that's where the pressure comes from, where they look at the activity. It's just black and white. All right, that person is not making budget. That person is not making KPI. Let's look at the activity. All right, activity is not.
Yeah, and the world's moved with all the new tools that are out there, that you can send thousands more emails, make heaps more calls, But what's actually resonating is the personalized, knowing the other person on the other end of the phone. So if my guys or girls make, 200 calls tomorrow, like what's the quality of that going to be like if we're not just generalizing the approach that we're doing? It's like, oh, you're a sales leader, you must have the same problem every sales leader has. But we know that's different from industry, from within industries, and like that's from the research and personalizing we can do. So I'd prefer to front load the effort on learning more around the persona, and then that persona's company, and those more in-depth levels, and having more in-depth conversations, because not getting a meeting now doesn't mean that person's not going to be a meeting in 3 months or in 6 months, or they're going to tell someone at a barbecue that's having a whinge that their marketing team isn't helping them as a seller. So yeah, there's pressures, and like those pressures are always going to be there, especially with that's how sales was done and has been done for forever. It's been I need you on the phones from 8 till 5. I need 150 calls a day. I think the world is moving away from that. And luckily, like I've got a really supportive leader from the international side and the BDR space who is like, let's not boil the ocean. Let's make sure we're being hyper personalized, and then let's find out what numbers we can do there. Let's not just send out a million things. If that's bringing it down to 100 emails a week, but they're 100 quality emails, then let's do that. If that's not the number, then there needs to be a baseline for it, because otherwise, people sort of take the mickey a little bit and go, well, I'm doing all this personalization. There's levels on both sides of it, but it's definitely what we're seeing at the moment of finding that right balance between activity and personalization and all of those fun things. So yeah, that's my day in and day out challenges with people and leadership and all of that.
What would it take for organizations to make SDR as a career, where someone would aspire to join an SDR team and end up being an SDR, not thinking that SDR is my ladder to become an AE?
Yeah. I've had to think about this, and I think there's ways that you can compensate them to keep them engaged.
Is that a compensation factor? Is that why people go to AE?
Yeah, well, that would be a big part of it. Yeah, one of the things that sort of frustrated me was that I would build this great relationship with you. We've had a great call. I've then taken another call with you. I feel like I'm building this great relationship, and then I have to hand it off. So from me and from my perspective, I'm like, I want to keep nurturing that. I want to be involved in all of the steps. But that's not everyone's prerogative. That's not what everyone might want to be interested in. I think if you incentivize SDRs, BDRs, and I've seen this at some companies, is that part of their number is based on meetings or opportunities or whatever it is. The other part is getting a percentage of those closed deals when they win. And I think that's a good way to keep people engaged at that, in that part of the organization, is going, we're not just going to give you a shout out when we close this $500,000 deal. You're going to get a slice of the pie.
And I think that's possible. You know why? I think that's possible because if you go a stage further, you will have A's who would say, I really don't want to get into management.
Yep.
Because they're earning enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't want to be the sales manager. They're happy to be the AE because of the commissions and everything. Yep. I think same can happen with BDRs, where they go like, they don't want to become an AE. They're happy with how they're going. They have mastered this skill. And if they're compensated on that mastering, I think that'll be just fine.
I think, and I'm going to refer back to my manager, like my international manager at the moment. I was having a conversation with him when I was going through this hiring process, and one of the candidates was like, "How quickly can I become an AE? Can I do it in 10 months? Can I get there in 8 months? Like, how quickly will that happen?" And his words of wisdom to me were around, "We can promote you to an AE, and we can fast track that as much as you want, like given you get the results on your end." But the BDR and SDR land is one of the best sort of nurseries and learning areas when it comes to your entire career. And I don't want to promote you to an AE to be making what you're making as a BDR. And there is money to be made in this SDR and BDR land if you are good in it.
Well, why can't you aspire to be the VP of SDR?
Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like that is not career BDRing, because that's then in the management side of things. I think there is a space to be a career BDR and be the senior BDR in the team. You might, help with onboarding. You might be like a buddy or whatnot. But if you're good at it, there is definitely enough money to be made there that you don't need to take those other steps and take on, the more responsibility that comes with, carrying $1 million quota as an AE or whatever that looks like.
Well, we reached to the end of the episode. Because I know this BDR, as I said before, is a rigorous job. It's not for everyone. I can't do it. Honest to God, I won't be able to do it ever. So I commend every BDR, right? Has there been any situation with you where you broke down, where you're like, today it was tough. It was like you hung up your cape and you're like, that's it.
Early on,
Yeah.
almost every day. You're like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? But then you have the one call where you're like, this is the best. The ebbs and flow are very dramatic early on, and learning to be able to control that is something that you sort of pick up along the way.
One wisdom sentence or paragraph you want to say to those people who are early on in their careers and they break down, they have burnouts, and then they doubt their career choice, and they think that, have I made a wrong choice? Do I need to go back to the uni? Do I need to study anything else? What would you say to them?
Firstly, you're not alone. And this is the answer I gave at the beginning to other people. You are. If anyone tells you they come in, you might be you might be one in a million to come in and have success from day dot and not go through those challenges. But you're absolutely not alone. And a great day is one call away. It's one email away. It's one response away. So you stick it out. Show back up the next day. Make sure you're doing the right stuff. Another great piece of advice would find the person that's killing it. Speak with them. Steal things from them. Like, you're on the same team if you're at the same company. Find the people that are having success. Lean into what they're doing, and then put your spin on it. But yeah, the next call could turn your worst day in the world into, holy crap, I'm amazing. This is exactly what I should be doing, sort of thing. It just changes so quickly. So pick up the phone one more time.
Amazing. Josh, what a pleasure it has been to get you here.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Cheers, mate.